right, we have 6:30 here. We'll go ahead and start the Thursday, June 27th, 6:30 Planning Commission meeting here in Loganville. If I could, get everybody to stand, we'll do an invocation and a pledge. All right, Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. And we ask you now to be with us during this meeting. Give us open minds and clear heart to make the decisions that we need to make for the betterment of this community called Loganville. This we ask in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You can have a seat. All right. Commission, has everybody had a chance to look over the meeting, some of the minutes from last meeting?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything we need to add, subtract, delete, or correct?
No, sir.
All right. All right. Got a motion to approve? Got a second?
Second.
Got 2 seconds? Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're good. All right. All right. We'll move on to the business at hand. Got one case before us tonight. It's going to be case number V24-022. AMH Development LLC requests a major variance for the property located at 2467 Claude Brewer Road in Loganville, 30052, Walton County. Map and parcel number is LG16005. Present zoning is R22 CSO. The ordinance and section from which the relief is sought is the zoning ordinance section 119. Design criteria, exterior materials. The applicant requests to reduce the rear elevation requirement to 3-inch brick or stone water tables, which will include sides of 3-car garages. All right. We have that. Ready for the applicant to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Shane Lanham with Mahaffey Pickens Tucker, LLP. Here on behalf of the applicant, AMH Development, LLC. My address is 1550 North Brown Road, Suite 125 in Lawrenceville. Subject property is approximately 101.78 acres on Claude Brewer Road. It's on the north side of Claude Brewer Road, just west of its intersection with Highway 81. Property zoned R22 CSO pursuant to an annexation and rezoning in 2018. We are requesting relief from the requirements of the zoning ordinance relative to building materials on the side and rear elevations. What we've proposed, well, first, the current requirement is to have a minimum of 75% brick or stone on all 4 sides of the homes. What we are proposing is to leave that 75% on the front facades, to provide 3-foot tall water tables on the sides of brick or stone, and then allow the rear elevations to be have 0 brick with fiber cement siding and other building materials of that caliber. So to get into some of the justification for the requested variance, I'll give you a little bit of background. The subject property, development of the subject property has been extremely difficult, and despite a 2018 annexation and rezoning, it has taken a few years to get to the point where we are now. Despite conducting due diligence, including rock borings, subsurface investigations, and having engineered, actually completed on the site, significantly more rock was discovered during actual development of the property, which has complicated the construction of homes and the development timeline. Additionally, significant challenges were encountered during sewer investigation and installation. It required 1.5 miles of sewer line to connect to a main line up at Highway 81 and Highway 78. And I don't say that to say you should feel sorry for us. I'm just sort of explaining what we've gone through, what we've encountered on the subject property, and the challenges we face that are the reason that we're here before you tonight. So what I'd like to do here is pause briefly and ask Mr. Ben Shoemaker with the applicant, AMH Development, to come up and share a few words with you about who they are and what they do.
Thank you. So my name is Ben Shoemaker. The office here in Atlanta is at 10 Mansell Court. I actually live at 1316 Northwest Moreland Drive in Orlando, Florida. And my role is I am the land acquisition, VP of land acquisition for AMH in the Southeast. I oversee Atlanta, Charleston, Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tampa. So I'm all over the place. And I just want to make sure, because I'm sure you guys, the big elephant in the room is, I am a Florida Gator. So, if there's
I'm
any
with you.
concerns, I'd like everybody to disclose if they have a problem. I
I'm a
have
Florida Gator,
Georgia Bulldog working for me. I've been to every Florida-Georgia game since 1980. So if there's any issues there, I think we should just talk about it now, but no. I work for AMH Development. I don't know how much you know about our company. We are a single-family home builder who rents our entire community. So we own almost 60,000 houses across the country. We're unique in that we build our own single-family communities. So we built over 10,000 houses across the country as we're adding into the housing stock. We're focused on workforce housing predominantly, housing that's more affordable in most locations for people who can't or don't want to buy a house right now. And we already have a project in your area in Loganville, and it's Stone Creek. You might be aware of the project here in the city. It's located on the north side of the project. We have about 140-something houses there. Stone Creek is, got to use the clicker. So let me start. Which side is here? I also wear glasses. So let me go ahead and put those on for a second. Am I clicking which way? Okay. So Stone Creek is a project. Here's a couple of the houses. These are actually the streetscape of Stone Creek and a couple of the houses we have there. So you can see we have the brick on the front and the other side. Stone Creek is a successful neighborhood. Robbie mentioned it when we met him beforehand that there may be not a whole lot of problems with Stone Creek that you don't hear from as far as the city, and maybe you haven't heard about it because there's not a lot of problems in it. And I point that out because one of the things is AMH, you can talk about renters and everything else and tenants. And by the way, up until about 6 months ago when I got my house, I've been living in a rental for about 3 years, building a house. So our residents are the same people that rent and live in your communities all the time. The difference is in our neighborhoods, we are very concerned because we own them all, right? So it's important to us because every one of those houses belongs to us. We don't sell. We're not flippers. We buy to own long-term. We stopped buying houses on the open market a while ago and decided to build our own products so we could build quality housing and build houses that, quite frankly, are more efficient, durable, will last, and all those factors that allow us to provide a better resident experience. Stone Creek's a great example of the problems because the problems don't go to the city, right? We mow the yards, okay? We pay all the utilities, actually. Tenants reimburse us. All houses are paid for. So there's never a house without a lawn care. There's never a house without electricity, never a house without water because they did it. We take care of all that. We regulate, if you go in and you buy a house and you move into a new community, you don't know who your neighbors are, what they might have done. In our neighborhoods, we run background checks in addition to credit checks on everybody else we have. So we're very concerned because we're putting people in our property, right? Just like if you were asking somebody to move in to your, hey, I got an extra bedroom, you want to come and stay? You might want to ask them a couple questions, right? And that's what we do. So we ensure that. If somebody has a problem in our lease, well, let me just give you another example. Parking is often a problem in a lot of communities. We require our tenants to register not only everybody that's living in the house, and we got to know, and there's only a certain number of people can qualify. We require them to go ahead and tell us how many cars they got, driver's license plates. So if we've got cars that are parking, and somebody will let us know. They won't call you about parking the street. They'll call us and say, hey, they're blocking the road. You handle it. We take care of that through a process differently than an HOA, differently than fining or through like code enforcement. We take care of that process through a lease process. We have a contract with those people. So there's lease provisions, we have contractual provisions to handle that issue. But don't get me wrong, we want people to stay in our houses and rent, right? We want them to pay their rent, we want them to have a good experience, that's great, but we have a way of taking care of that. Point being, our communities don't impact other, the municipal jurisdictions or something like otherwise. You're just not gonna hear from them. So we think that's important. Rocky Creek, the next slide, oh, excuse me, it's not clicking. This is, these are the houses in Wheeler Creek. This is another community. We just wanted to point this because I'm going to show you some renderings of the houses that we were proposing in Rocky Creek. But these are houses that we're building right now. This is the product with a third car garage that we're proposing in Rocky Creek. So these are currently under construction in Wheeler Creek, not too far from here. They're renting today. These are houses that are anywhere from 3-bedroom at 2,000 up to 2,600. Some of our with basements are 2,700 square feet. 3, 4, 5-bedroom homes with third-car garages. Now, these are the renderings of the houses in Rocky Creek. So in the current project, he mentioned the rock, and we should have not named it Rocky Creek. Maybe it would have given us better luck. But we had 250,000 cubic yards of rock we had to remove. It was a lot to grind up and move. So our intent was that the value that we see is people like the third car garage, not necessarily for a third car, but for storage, get out of the storage units next door, they move in, they want that kind of space. We focus on that same thing in our houses by providing adequate closet space and room for people to move in. It's good for the tenant. It's good for us. We want people to stay. We want people to move in and live. And in fact, our average tenant stays with us about 3.4 years. These aren't people that are just rolling over year after year. Our average tenant makes about $140,000 as a household income. Our average tenant has about 1.6 kids and 1.3 dogs. That's why we've designed our houses around families. And so, including fences, the things we want, and we've started to see the demand for 3-car garages. So, this was a unique situation. 100-foot lots. How do we make the best use of the lots? Let's put these 3-car garages on, and let's go from there. So these are the kind of elevations we're proposing. These are the sides. So we're proposing the water table brick. It's a term I've only heard up here. We don't have a lot of our water tables below the ground in Florida, but we talk about that. So 2 things to notice. One is the actual 3-car garage creates some dimension to the side of the house. Yeah, bricks, it's about looking at the sides. You're driving by, what does it look like? I mean, there's concerns, you know, good brick, bad brick, but this helps break up at least one side of the house. We think that the water table surround breaks up that elevation as well, but it gives us some dimension. And if you'll look, those garages tend to be set back a little bit, so you also get some dimension on the front of the house. So we thought and do think that this is great product and it's very desirable, and we know that because we're currently building it and renting it, and people like the product. So for us, we know that cost isn't the only expense, cost isn't the only factor, that's not up to you, but we really designed the product and our project around counting on building 3-car garages because we're laying out every house, right? We know every house on every lot before we ever get the deal finally approved. Myers is my land guy. He knows sitting there and drawing pictures and plans and stuff and putting everything on the houses. So that's side. Now, in your community, there's a couple of communities coming in that are in the same kind of overlay zone. They've had some different issues when they came in. But for the larger lots and with the overlay, these are a couple of communities that are coming in, Eleonora and Chase Landing. We think they look fine. What we want to point out is the house in Eleonora, which is being sold by, it was DRB was building the houses. Nice looking 3-car house, right? The smaller house, and their model is on the corner. If you see that, even their model with the flag, they had, it's good looking product and they're doing it for sale. We think our product looks as good at that, so we think the value of what we're offering with that 3-car garage is the same way. Chase, you know, you've got the rental houses, they're smaller, you don't see all the porches and other things that we add to the house, and it's still a good looking product, but we think our product looks better, and by adding what we've got and getting that 3-car garage, it's incredibly important for the value. I want to show you a little bit just about a house, and I'll kind of wrap this up. So this is a floor plan. This is our Taft floor plan that we building there. And I wanted to show you the floor plan because this is a 2,500 square foot house that we'll be building. But you can see on the first floor elevation, you can see how the 3rd car is recessed, right? Giving some dimension to the site and not just putting a big box up in front. Quite frankly, I worked for D.R. Horton for many years, and a lot of times we had a lot of boxes. It was an efficient way to build a house and everything else, but we like to make the houses look good because we're building it for us. We're not building it just to sell. We're building it to rent every year, to keep tenants in, and how it looks, how we maintain it. It's extremely important to us because we're the owner, right? So that elevation looks good. You can see all the detail in the house. You can see the front porch. And we will have, by the way, haven't showed you all the elevations. We didn't have them all rendered. There's multiple elevations for each plan. So it's not just 4 elevations. Every house has 2 to 3 elevations we'll be showing you. Here's an inside, by the way. This is our old standard house and the kitchen, and you can see the master bath. So 2 things to note. So we have the granite tile behind there, and in this case, you can see the shower has tile behind it. We have changed our specs. So in Rocky Creek, all of that will actually be built out of quartz. And the top, the backsplash, the kitchen backsplash, the tops in the bathrooms will all be quartz. I mean, why do we do that? Well, quite frankly, it looks great. It's something that our people will like, and it's incredibly easy to maintain. So we don't have grout lines, we don't have tile popping off, and we're just looking for ways to build really nice stuff that lasts, is durable and efficient. So just, these aren't houses that would, I'm sure the specs in the DRB houses and otherwise are very nice, but we build with a very nice spec as well. And so the other thing that has come into play, one of the things that is a big change that, and Shane will talk about the conditions. At the back of the property, if you see the green space, what we're proposing are a few things, but in addition to the things I've talked about, and he'll specify what we'd like to propose as conditions. In addition to those conditions regarding the house, some on-street parking, things like that, there's 18 lots that we're taking out of the project. Quite frankly, the back area there going down towards the creek, we had to cross the creek for the sewer. We're going to make that a conservation area, dedicated, open space, put a walking trail around it. It's difficult and challenging and expensive to develop down there. We've had to get through. We can cross it. We've done all the work we've got. But the idea of the open space code a little bit seems to be to have larger lots, open conservation area, make nice neighborhoods for walking, and we're trying to embrace that in what we're doing. So, yeah, it's would be hard for us to develop those lots, but we think it's a better play to make that an open space. We can do that with some relief so we can do these other features. And with that, I will turn it over to Shane to talk about conditions, and I'm welcome, I talk too much anyways, but I'm always welcome to take questions afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ben. So want to build on that by saying, I think one of the things to consider here is the subject property and the proposed development, how it fits within that area. And so approval of the variance would not result in, an island. It would not create, for lack of a better characterization, this spot zoning where the homes in this community are very different from what's adjacent to it. Homes along Milton Bryan Road are primarily siding on all 4 sides. Homes in the South Fork community have some of that higher amounts of brick and stone on the front facade, but the sides and rears are primarily siding as well. And that's not to say, well, they did it, so let us do it. That's not to say that at all. It's just to say that if the variance were approved, it would not result in homes that are out of character with adjacent communities. And so to transition from sort of those physical hardships, which I think is in a variance, that's a core part of the analysis, is are there physical characteristics of the property that cause the hardship, that cause the need for the variance? And here, we touched on economic hardship. Us being able to make money is not your problem. That's not the city's problem. That's our problem. But the physical characteristics of the property, despite doing your due diligence, despite having all those test borings and all that investigation preliminary engineering work, we encountered so much more rock than the testing indicated was there that it pushed our timeline out severely by years. And so this property, since it was zoned in May of 2018, that was the old overlay that didn't have these material requirements. Those weren't adopted until November of 2019, I think it was. So if if those physical characteristics of the property weren't there, this thing would have proceeded along a normal development timeline, and it would have been adhering to that old requirement anyways, that didn't have the 75% on all four sides. So there is more than just an economic hardship. There's a hardship imposed on us by the physical characteristics of the property. But I think here what we'd try to touch on now is, I think there's a practical element too, right? There's an element to say, all right, well, if I'm sitting here in your position, I'm thinking, why would I grant a variance that I think is going to decrease the quality of the homes? Why would I do that? Why would the city entertain that? And I think what we would propose is that there is a way to balance out the variance with additional conditions that maintain that quality. So what we don't want to do, as Ben touched on, well, what we do want to do is build high-quality homes, larger homes, 3-car garages for a variety of reasons. What we don't want to do is having to start cutting corners, cutting costs to try to make up for it in a way that's not accretive to the community. And frankly, it doesn't benefit us long-term either. So we don't want to start reducing square footage. We don't want to start stripping out the finishes and the interiors or things like that. That's not what we want to do. What we would propose is there a fair balance here? And that's where we get into the conditions, which would be, can we propose conditions to the city that would substitute for our other significant value drivers that would create that long-term value for the city while giving us relief on just one aspect, and that's the amount of brick or stone, which, not even touching on taste about the amount of brick or stone change from time to time. The modern farmhouses are really big right now. A lot of those are all siding. You know, some people prefer the brick, but even aside from taste, there's that long-term value. And so we would agree that all the siding, whether it's board and batten style or shake style or the lap siding style, would be that fiber cement style siding, no vinyl. We would agree to prohibit vinyl siding. It's all fiber cement style. We would agree to the condition we've talked about, that 3-foot water table. So we're asking for relief for the amount of brick, but we could agree to do that water table on the sides. We could agree to have that 3-car garage be a requirement, not just something that we think is a good idea, but that we're actually obligated to do. Additionally, covenants to prohibit on-street parking, which is more difficult to enforce in an HOA situation that Ben touched on. That's not a problem for us because we can say, it doesn't matter what Georgia HOA law says. Our lease with you says you don't park on the street, and we've got your license plate and we've got your driver's license, and that will be enforced. Additionally, all of the landscaping for the residential lots would be performed by the HOA, property manager, so you don't have those, one-off cases. Every neighborhood, no matter how big the houses or lots are, there's always a few folks that don't like cutting grass and don't paint their house on time and let the roof go too long. That would all be taken care of by us, and we'd agree to a condition that the HOA and management's responsible for all landscaping on all the lots. We'd agree to make it a condition that that those 18 lots would be converted to open space and amenitized with walking trails. We think that's another way to add value. But also, I think one that I think makes some difference for sure is the minimum heated floor area of the homes. So code is 2,000. And so what we would agree to is a condition that says minimum heated floor area, just a base minimum is 2,000 square feet, just code minimum there. But 50% of the homes shall be 2,400 square feet or larger. So that's over and above what the code requires. That's a condition of the variance that speaks to value. And so all of those 7 conditions that are listed here taken together, what I would submit to the Planning Commission for your consideration is that those more than make up for decreased amounts of brick just in a vacuum, but then also given the context of the hardships that have been imposed on the property owner everybody knows there's rock out here, and that's why you do borings. That's why you test for it. And that's why you hire professionals to tell you how much rock there is. And when they're off by 250,000 cubic yards, that complicates things. So in addition to what we would propose as a fair, I hate to use the word trade, but as sort of to compensate for that, the hardship element, I think, comes in on top of that as well. So I'll conclude there. Thank you all very much for your consideration. We'd be happy to answer any questions y'all may have as well.
All right, thank you, Shane. Questions from the commission? Seeing as how there are no citizens here. We don't have anybody here to speak for or against, so we'll just start with the commission. Barbara?
I have a question. What do you propose for rent on this property? And I was here when it all happened. I don't remember ever discussing renting these homes.
Right. And I
Could
don't
be
think.
very wrong, but this is the first time I've heard anything about renting them.
Yeah, and when it was zoned, it was not proposed as a rental community.
Correct.
It was after the fact, I think, maybe a year or two afterwards, when y'all purchased the property, from that property owner
Okay.
who owned it before them. So AMH did not come in, do the zoning, and now say, oh.
It was fully engineered.
That's fully engineered. I think there were permits in place. So this is not oh, by the way, we didn't tell you who we really are. That's not, this group had nothing to do with the zoning.
Yeah,
They just
and
came in.
With that being said, that's not a condition we're really here to look at tonight, but thank you for addressing it.
Right, and that's, thank you, sir, I appreciate that. And we know that, the variance has, to be candid, the variance has nothing to do with who owns the
Correct.
houses, right? But we just want to be transparent. And that's why we wanted to spend time explaining who we are and what we do, just to be very transparent about the current situation. So, but I'd have to defer to Ben on I think you asked a question about the rents, projected
Yes.
rents for the community.
Since it's going to be rental property, I would like to know.
So, we look at the pro forma all the time. Our current proposed rents that we're running through our corporate environment's about 2,400 to 2,800. So if you got a house and you bought an equivalent house, a 5-bedroom house, that would be at 2,800, in this neighborhood, it'd be like 475,000. Your mortgage payment with property taxes and everything else, if you put $90,000 down, might be about 3,300. So, yeah, it's a good deal. We find that we are more affordable in almost every market that we're in today than buying a house. That doesn't mean that people aren't saving. I mean, if you're buying that house from us and you're renting from us for a couple of years, all of a sudden you're putting $8,000 in your pocket, $8,000 in your pocket, and maybe you can go out and get a VA loan. Probably about 50 to 60% of our buyers end up going out and buying a home. But you move into a new area, you want to know where you're, sorry, I get excited about that part because I like what we provide, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker.
But do you offer the opportunity for them to buy where they are renting, or nothing but rent?
Nothing but rent. We only own the communities. We own the homes and the entire neighborhood, and there's no foreseeable
Squabbling.
plan for sale.
All right, so if I could kind of piggyback off of that, since you folks would be responsible for the maintenance of the properties and everything, the city will have a 24-hour contact with the company for maintenance, should there be any issues that come into the city?
We can, yeah, you go on our website, and every tenant, it's amh.com. You can go to the community, and we can be contacted.
Okay, awesome.
We don't have on-site management, as you let yourself in, it's all those type things. But yes, we're here. We're vertically integrated on both sides. So we have our property management team, little vans that go out to fix the cars. We maintain 6,000 houses around the Atlanta area. Almost a third of them now are new builds that we built ourselves. So they do that. On the development side, we do everything from development to build the houses ourselves. So we're vertically integrated as a builder, and we're vertically integrated on the property management from leasing all the way through.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any other questions? Tiffany, go ahead.
I think our community is very interested in understanding how the rental process will go with this. This is new for us. So I had a couple questions, just kind of more FYI for the folks that are not here that may be watching at home and whatnot. You mentioned
Are there
that.
cameras? Can my wife turn it on?
Fun stuff. You mentioned that your average renter stays about 3 years or so. Are your rental leases typically 12 months, 24?
So we have pretty much two options on leases. Most of the vast majority of our leases are 1-year leases. And you can do a 2-year lease. 2-year leases tend to be a little bit higher because you're locking in the price. But you know, our average probably across Atlanta, and I would say that you could listen to the earnings call next week to find out what the rent increases have been, but generally, our renewal and our release rental rates are about 3 to 5%
Okay.
across. We do see a little bit more on the new homes because we start a little lower and there's more demand for them.
Gotcha. How often does the management company visit the community to monitor things such as violations with the HOA, things like that?
We have a separate group that's our community management people. So what do they actually refer to? It doesn't, it's community managers. They're also, we don't have outside property managers. It's our group. So we have people in several ways that are in there. One, if somebody's going out for a maintenance request, the guy in the truck is in the community, and they're almost always in the community, you know, on a regular basis. AC doesn't work, this or whatever, got to change the filter, they're out there. Then we have property management, who's obviously dealing specifically with the tenants that they're doing. So they're going out there and they're checking their communities and talking to people. And then in our new home communities, because those people are also dealing with all of the homes that are not in new home communities. And in addition, on the new home community side, we have community managers and new home communities that are responsible for making sure the grass is cut and how's that done, and checking with the landscaper, making sure those things are in it, looking for violations and dealing with those issues. They act like a property management company, but they're in-house for us. So we have 3 levels of people going out to the neighborhoods for various reasons. In addition, while we're starting, our own construction people are out there to identify issues and solve issues, which will take us 2 or 3 years to build.
Okay, so there's lots of people going out there, but do you have like a schedule, like, okay, once a month we go out and we're looking for violations? Is there anything like that?
I can't tell you that in Atlanta, honestly. So I don't know their schedules. I know, but I can give you an example in Orlando because I'm more familiar. Smaller, we have more new home communities, so I know how they operate it a little bit better. The answer would be they're usually, so we will have certain communities, they'll be located in a certain area, and they get in their communities at least twice a week.
Twice a
But
week?
they're not just going out for a violation, you know, they're checking their communities, everything. You know, you're looking at the yards. The biggest challenge that we face is making sure that the lawn maintenance is done properly, right? Because it's a lot of lawns to cut all at the same time. So, you know,
Gotcha.
they're not always perfect, but they're always about the same height. So that's a big plus.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you sold any of your communities?
No.
You've not?
We sell, we don't sell our, you know, some builders, like, I don't want to keep bringing up D.R. Horton, but D.R. Horton builds communities. Resi Built, some of these other have sold communities. They built it up and sell it to other investor groups. We're the only, we're one of 2 publicly traded single-family REITs. And real estate investment trust, throw it around. I didn't know what a REIT was at some point. So we have houses that we sell, but they tend to be houses that are older houses. It's time for them to go, you know, it's time to move on the house. Maybe they're not located where we are, but our trajectory, I guess, is to continue to build new home communities and build newer homes. We don't want to sell homes that are 1, 2, 3 years old when we have houses that I think our first house in Orlando is over 50 years old. And we still own it, by the way. I will tell you one thing, because I think this, if I may, I want to tell you 2 things about our company. One, the founder of our company is a guy named Wayne Hughes. He passed away 2 years ago. Wayne Hughes started a company called Public Storage. And I think the most telling, Wayne Hughes came from Oklahoma. He moved to California. He just went out there to start, bought a house, worked on something, became a huge real estate guy. Wayne saw an opportunity about buying houses back in 2010. Maybe we could do this. If we could put together a platform, there's this opportunity for all these houses that are sitting vacant. What can we do with them to do this? They got to the point, I say that, number one, we weren't driven by, it's not a hedge fund. It's not some Blackstone company. It was a company that was built by a person who was building up real estate. The most telling thing, one of the reasons I'm proud to work for this company, is they got to their 100th home they purchased. And of course, everybody's all excited, right? Everybody's excited. We got 100 home mugs, and they bought their 100th home. And he told those people, and our chief legal officer tells this story because she was there. And he says, it's great to be excited, but I don't want you to ever forget that that was somebody else's home. And that we are here, and our goal is to provide home ownership and opportunities and provide quality housing. And that's who he was, and that's the foundation of how we are. And I know there's lots of talk about rental companies and everything else, and I've worked for a lot of companies. And I can tell you sincerely, and I'm not going to swear, I am a member of the bar in Florida, but I will tell you, it is true that we try to provide a quality housing experience for all of our residents. So,
Okay. And then my last question is kind of a combination question. You mentioned that you're probably about 3 years out from getting everything built.
well, it takes about, we're almost done, the subdivision's about ready for final plat. So we'll be, while we know the rents, because we're looking at them, we're getting ready to start the construction probably over the next 60, 90 days. Is that where, plat? We'll start houses this year. And
Okay.
so we're only going to build, we don't build them all out at once. We just build them, like 6 a month. So we're going to have about 118. So it'll be a couple of years and 6 months to build out. So we'll build them over time because we build the houses, get them leased, keep just kind of moving through the community, because what we don't want to do is create a situation where we build 50 houses, put a bunch of tenants in. The next year when they're coming up to move, we can't handle them, we can't manage it. If there's issues, we don't want, we want to be able to do it in bite size and manage what we have.
Okay. That mostly answered my question. I guess I was wondering if there was like a wait list. Like, do you have interest that's being shown
Well,
to occupy these homes?
in Georgia, and this was new to me and I found this out recently, in Georgia, you're not allowed to market a home until you can actually get in the house.
Oh,
So you can't put pictures up, and you can't actually go in the house. We can't do it until you can actually see the house. So we can't put it on the website until you can actually go in the house. So we would really like to build up this kind of wait list and stuff, but I can tell you that our communities in Atlanta, in the greater metro area, and on the east side of town, still confused me. I don't know why I think of this as the west side, but the east side of town, all of our communities we rent about 6 to 7 houses a month, and that's a good pace for us to make sure we can move people in and provide a good experience on getting in the house.
thank you. That's all my questions.
All right. Linda, did you have something? Then we'll go to Bill.
Okay, I did. So according to what you're telling us here, you don't have any kind of pools or anything for amenities for the people that will be living there? I know you have some green space in some of this, like kind of like in the center of
So we're
this.
going to have a park area. So when we do a park area, it's we call it a tier one, that part. So we'll do a very nice playground with some pavilion areas for gathering. When we do the playground, we put it in the rubber surface, not the rubber mulch. So it's, very nice, like a quality city playground in area. In this particular area, we feel like that matches up some other areas. We've done some different amenities depending on what we've got, but that's what we're proposing here. And that's why it also helps to add the walking. We feel like with the larger lots in the area, that's the amenity. I don't know how to say it, but we really feel like people like the larger lots, and we have the fenced yards, and we think that in itself with the third car garage will create the value that people want, because the more of the amenities, the more we got to push up the rent a little bit, and we think that we're priced appropriately, and that would be what people would want. And people, it's a little different than apartments, we found. Apartments, people rent apartments different. You got to have something, because when you walk out, you're in a hall, whatever, and so you want some more amenities. And the houses, our families are busy on the weekend. They're running around to sports events. They've got all kinds of stuff going on. So they don't always have time, and we find the areas that are used the most are our playgrounds, upgraded playgrounds and walking areas and stuff within the community.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject for a moment, please. One of the conditions on when this rezone was approved, May 10th, 2018, did include a pool with a clubhouse and a 6-foot wooden fence along a large portion of the property, along the property line of both sides abutting South Fork. So I did just want to put that on, let y'all know that was a condition of the original rezone.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I was going to be a question if they were going to be held to those same standards as prior. Okay.
Yes, so they're still held to those conditions in addition to any other conditions you may apply tonight if you do rezone it.
We were not aware of that condition. It was not in any of the plans that were approved when we bought the LDP and the plans.
They weren't told when they purchased the property.
I apologize, that was before
Well,
me,
we-
but,
we-
yeah, we can revisit that.
All right, thank you.
I want to know if there was a market study done. Do you think this area can carry that much in rent for that many houses in reality? That's a lot of money, folks.
Yeah, I'll defer, sorry.
The short answer, we have, based on, we look at our rents based on our own rents. So we know what houses we have in the area in general, and we have houses surrounding the area. We can also determine, like a nice area like Loganville, we can compare to other markets in Atlanta, and yes, we think
But
we
what
can
other
get the rents.
markets? Because Loganville's out in this supposedly, I don't know.
We're not rural anymore.
Well, I know we're not rural anymore, but it is still a rural county.
We believe the rents can be supported. There seems to be an undersupply of quality housing, and when people have an opportunity to get a nicer rental home, they can afford it and they'll take it.
Okay.
Okay. If I could remind the commission that being a rental property is not what we're here to discuss tonight. So while he's willing to give us that information, I appreciate it, but that's not really why we're here tonight.
I have a question.
Next.
Oh, okay, you go next.
Well, I mean, I think, with the previous conditions that are, up on this piece of property, when you did the purchase from whoever you purchased it from, did you do the due diligence properly to determine, A, one, that these conditions were there, and B, that this rock was there, that may have been the reason that they kind of quit doing what they were doing?
So I can touch on that, and you add specifics and
But he's
add color,
explaining
but,
rock.
so typically, especially out in this part of the world, people know there's rock around, right? I mean, you can't see Stone Mountain off, in, I don't know if you can see it from Loganville, but we all know it's there, and Arabia Mountain and some of these other Panola Mountains, I think is another one of those
Rockdale
mountains.
County has the same problem.
And you want, why is it called Rockdale, right?
Because it's rock.
Exactly.
I
So,
live there,
so
I
what you
know.
do is you do what these property owners do, is you don't just take a risk, you don't just take a gamble, you hire a company that goes out with a drill and they bore down into the ground and they, monitor the type of soil that they're getting, and they say, all right, we hit rock here, and they try to test, see how deep that rock is. And so there were boreholes drilled all over this property to say, all right, here's where the rock is. You have geologists that make these estimates about here's how much volume of rock you're gonna have to bring out. So there's absolutely was due diligence performed in that regard. And then relative to the conditions, I think that's something where we may just have to get with staff to kind of investigate that plat and that potential discrepancy there. But as to the rock and the geology, absolutely there
I
was.
mean, is that done by you all, or is that done by the previous
It was
property? You're kind of taking their word for it if you.
No, but both, right? So there was a fully engineered permit, it was a requirement of our closing, and they'd done a lot of geotech, we reviewed it, and then we added geotech. One of the challenges, quite frankly, was because of the size of the lots. There's kind of like, your standard practice, go out and drill a spot on the lot, well, 100 feet, so that was part of the problem. And, would we have done a lot more? We are now. In a lot of communities, we're drilling even more than we would, but hindsight's 20/20.
Thank you. Anything else, Bill?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy. Oh, I answered it? Okay. All right, anybody else down here? Michael, you got anything? No. All right.
Thank you.
Seems to be it from the commission here. All right. Everybody had a chance to mull this over? Are we ready to make a motion here?
Well, my only concern is if they're not having, originally they were supposed to do pools and have amenities for the subdivision. and they weren't aware of that. I think that's something they need to go back and check on and come back to us and say, yes, we can provide something, or no, we're not going to provide anything. Because I know if I was built,
They don't have the option to not provide it,
huh? They don't have the option to provide it,
to not provide it.
to not provide it.
Yeah,
Yeah, as a condition, they have to provide it.
They have to provide it.
But
So-
again, that's not what we're discussing here right now.
Okay.
yeah, we're mainly just
so-
focusing on the exteriors.
So all we're really talking about right now is just the site.
We are limited to the scope of the information presented in the application, and what was presented as information tonight, please.
Right.
Right.
All right. So
Okay.
in regard to the request made tonight, are we ready to make a recommendation one way or the other? Barbara?
I'll make a recommendation, we approve the variance for them as long as they have the 3-foot border line all the way around.
All right.
I like
Can,
that recommendation.
And we have no vinyl, that's outlawed in city limits loading area.
Ms. Barber, would you consider making your motion, amending your motion to include their proffered conditions?
yes, that's what I was going to suggest. Their conditions that they offered?
Yes, on the preferred conditions, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Got a second? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like?
Aye.
One against? Motion passes. This will be our recommendation to the city council. It'll go before the city council at their next meeting, and they'll make the ultimate decision. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all being here tonight. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion? Got a second? We got 2/3. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.